We're going to continue our discussion on self. We've established a principle that Judaism considers man to be not only a physical being, but a godly being as well. Okay, last week we discussed the way of discovering or coming into a relationship with Hashem, with God. And we saw that the main way that Judaism teaches to get into a relationship with God, to get connected to realize, to find God, is to discover yourself. Okay? And that happens through pondering where we come from, what our source is. Okay, and we actually explained that the word God, Elohim, in Judaism, okay, is traditionally defined as Mekor HaKochot Kulam. Okay? The possessor, the source of all our strengths. Okay, we gave an example that, we all have very short memories, relatively. Okay, we don't remember when we all started walking, for example. Okay? But where did that come from? Okay, we don't remember when we started speaking either. But where did that come from? Okay? And the more that we contemplate that we're not only limited timely beings, okay, but we were started, and we have a starting point, okay, and that we're sourced in something higher, and that's going to be our discovery A of self and B of Hashem. The question is, what's the nature of that relationship? Okay, what's the nature of our relationship between ourselves and Hashem? Okay, and also what's the nature of our being to begin with? Okay, that's what we want to I want to start discussing today, and it's going to kind of reach over into 1, 2, 3, 4 classes, including today. Okay, we're going to try to define in a very precise way who exactly we are. Okay, but there's a challenge to all that. Okay, and that challenge begins with this picture, which I understand you've all seen before. Okay? Okay, you can see it. Should we zoom in? Or you can see it on the camera? Should I just zoom it in manually? You can see that?
That's right.
Okay. What is this a picture of, guys?
Of a woman.
Of a woman.
How old?
Okay. Approximately how old? You have two choices, between the age of 20 and 35 or between the age of 60 and 85.
60 and 85.
Okay. Does everyone agree? Does anyone disagree with? Who agrees with Chaim? Raise your hand.
I see both.
We're talking 60 to 85. 60 to 85. Who says 60 to 85? Okay, you also, okay.
Actually, if I was a monkey.
Pardon me?
Actually, if I was a monkey.
If you were a monkey?
No, I actually thought at the beginning that this was a monkey.
Ah, you thought there was a monkey? Okay. Who sees a 20 to 35-year-old woman? Okay, and then there are people who say that you see both. Okay, and here's what I want to get at, okay?
Yeah, that's what I said.
When you say that you see both, do you see both at once or do you have to adjust your focus? Okay? There's actually here, let's just show this, okay, to all our viewers internationally who are watching this on the video. Okay? This could be a nose, okay, a nose, okay, the mouth and the chin of an old lady. Okay? And then these would be, I guess, the arms or something like that. Alternately, okay, or warts, I don't know, whatever old women have, okay. Alternately, this could be the cheek and the nose of a young lady looking away. Okay? You guys got those options? Excellent. So those are the two options in this picture. Okay? So what is this a picture of? Is it an old lady? Not only. Is it a young lady? Not only. Is it a picture of an old lady and a young lady?
Middle-aged.
Also middle-aged. Okay? And this is a challenge.
Midlife crisis.
Okay, midlife crisis. She doesn't know where to put herself, right? But this is a challenge. Okay? Because this is a picture of something which goes beyond the either or. This isn't a picture of either an old lady or a young lady. It's not a picture of both an old lady and a young lady, which would be a picture of one standing next to the other. Okay, it's a picture of this synthesis of both. Okay, this unified being. Okay, which is both a young lady and an old lady at once, even though those two contradict. Okay, and while maybe on paper that makes sense, but we can't really comprehend that. Okay, when you look at this picture, correct me if I'm wrong. When you look at this picture, you're not going to see an old lady, young lady synthesis. You're going to see one, and then you'll adjust your focus and see the other, right?
There's a funny video about this actually.
That what?
Someone brings in a girl and they're like, do you like my new girlfriend? he looks and sees an old lady.
Say again?
A boy brings in the girl and says, "Do you like this person?" And then the other boy looks and sees an old lady. He goes, "No."
Because of this?
Yeah.
Based on this, that is fine. Okay. Right, so am I right about that assumption? That you guys don't see both ladies at once?
I can discern both at once.
What do you mean? You can define
As in-
different parts.
As in by looking at the picture as a whole, as opposed to focusing on either at once, I can see both.
You can, and you can actually realize that they're both ladies? Interesting. Okay. That's a very interesting way of looking at things. But most people, you're special, you can go like the circus for me and special. No, but most people have to focus on one. Okay? And when did you see this picture? You guys saw it last week or something like that?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it before?
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a pretty popular picture. But most people, okay, if you remember after the first time they ever saw it, okay, and you normally catch one of the women, okay, and then when someone points out to you the other one, you just say, "Oh my God," and you're totally shocked, right? That happens to me. It happens to me every time I look at this picture, okay, because I look at it, and I'm looking for the other one, and I can't find it. Then suddenly I see it, I'm like, "Whoa!" Anyway, but that's the funny thing because we see in a dualistic way, okay, this strange, third species of old lady, young lady is something beyond our, or at least, as laymen, it's beyond our ability to see. And this is a challenge, okay, why am I talking about this? Okay, this is a challenge when it comes to trying to understand Hashem. Okay, we brought up, or we suggested two paradigms last week of trying to understand Hashem. One was that Hashem is out there, and I'm down here, okay? And I have my wills, and he has his wills, okay? And he commands me to do what he wants me to do, and I have to forfeit the things that I want to do in order to fulfill what he wants us to do, okay? In other words, okay? That first image is that Hashem is totally beyond anything that I can comprehend, okay? And there are no common denominators, no common terms, no common properties between myself and Hashem. Okay? And in a lot of ways that's true. Okay? Because we're timely. Okay, we have a date of birth, and God only after the end of 120 years, we have a date of death. Okay? And God is eternal. Okay? We have bodies, we're physical. Okay? And Hashem is bodiless. Okay? But at the same time, okay, there is that property of this complete distinction. Okay, at the same time, there's also a point where we meet. Okay, there's a relationship. Okay, and the question is, how are we going to synthesize those two? Okay, how do we synthesize between this absolute God, okay, who's totally beyond me, okay, and the personal God, okay, who I relate to through relating to myself and understanding my deeper self. Okay, how do we reconcile these two concepts? Okay? So let's see a few sources from Rav Kook. Today we're going to be studying a little bit of Rav Kook. Okay, Rav Avram Yitzhak Kook. A few passages in Orot HaKodesh, which we're going to discuss. These are three pieces which when they were introduced to me a few years ago, it totally changed my outlook on life. Life experiences and relation to life and goals and ideals, and there are a lot of important messages to be learned from this, which I hope that we'll tackle in the few minutes that we have. Okay, let's start actually from the end. We're going to start from the third piece in front of you. Okay. The third, the two came out in the same box for some reason. Anyway. Okay, so we're in the third piece. Okay, this is from Rav Kook and Orot HaKodesh, Chelek Bet, page Taf Kuf Lamed Bet. Anyone go to Gematria? Taf Kuf Lamed Bet equals 532, right? 532. Let's start straight from the English. Okay, that we'll be able to discuss it and really chew on it a little bit and to get really to the messages that I wanted to get to today. Okay, so I'm going to read it. We understand in the absolute divine perfections two values of perfection. In other words, when we discuss the fact that Hashem is perfect, okay, and we're going to assume, okay, that Hashem is perfect, okay, all-encompassing, no need for anything. Okay? But when you try to contemplate this perfection, okay, we're going to distinguish between two types of perfections that Hashem includes. Okay? Two values of perfection. One value of perfection, because of its greatness and completeness, has no relationship to any increment. Okay? That means that something which is perfect has no need to grow anymore. Right? Perfection usually means that it's perfect. There's no room for growth. Okay? If I get a perfect score on my test, that means that I got 100% of the questions right. That means that there are no more questions for me to answer. Okay? That's what perfection is. Okay? In the simplest definition of perfection. Okay? In the quantitative, if you will. In the quantitative understanding of perfection, perfection means that there's no room for growth. Because it's perfect. Okay? So that's the first value of perfection. However, okay, and this is a simple philosophical question, but the way that the Kook tackles it and answers it is very revolutionary. However, if there was not a possibility of increment, then this itself would be a deficiency. Okay? Because a perfection which progresses and increases consistently has an extra transcendental pleasure, a certain height that we yearn for to grow from power to power, and therefore the divine perfection could not miss the advantage of increment. Okay? If we suggest that Hashem is perfect, okay, and that would thereby suggest that Hashem cannot grow, then we're imposing restrictions on Hashem. Okay, you follow? And imposing restrictions on Hashem implies that He's not perfect, He's not absolute. You guys are with me? It's a simple philosophical question. Can God create a rock which He can't lift? You guys ever hear this question before? Okay, so what do you guys think? Can God create a rock which He cannot lift? No, He can't. Why?
Because nothing is beyond God's power. As in, He could always, anything material, He'll be able to lift. Like, He can't create something material that He wouldn't be able to then further manipulate or then further. So
God is restricted by the fact that He cannot overcome anything which is physical. Excuse me, that He cannot not overcome anything which is physical.
He can't.
The whole point is he can't answer the question.
No, he can't surpass His own power, essentially.
He can't surpass His. Okay. You guys, I'll agree with Mark. That God cannot create a rock which He cannot lift. Excuse me, God cannot create a rock which He can't lift.
Created free will.
Sorry, God cannot create a rock
that He can't lift.
Lift his means.
Lift is to pick it up.
Ah, okay.
Okay, that's what Mark suggested.
He created free will. Can't do anything there.
Okay, so He can't overcome free will. Okay.
Great.
Okay.
He
Did
definitely
they create
can.
it?
He can, he just doesn't.
Okay.
He just is frowned upon.
Meaning that what? What are you
It's
trying
not
to
like
say?
it
What are you
was
trying to say?
something
Tell me is that
that's
He
the
created
rock.
restrictions on Himself. He is able to create restrictions on Himself.
Is free will.
The rock essentially is free will. Okay, or an example for free will. And Hashem could create
Wait, I
restrictions
don't get
upon
what he's
Himself.
saying at all. What is he saying?
Sammy?
Yeah, Sammy, what are you saying?
You see, the rock is a metaphor for free will. And that He created free will.
Okay, Sammy's saying that Hashem can create restrictions upon Himself. Otherwise, He'd be restricted by not being able to restrict Himself. Okay? Can.
I don't know.
And this is the catch-22, okay? This is a complicated thing, okay? Because either way, you're posing that Hashem has some kind of restriction.
Isn't bound by
I think they're
nature.
self-imposed
He created
restrictions.
the laws of nature. He isn't bound by them.
He created them, but He's not bound by them. Therefore, what? Can He or can He not?
Well, it doesn't matter.
What's that?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay, that's a simple answer.
He created laws, so he can do whatever he wants.
So He can overcome those laws. Okay.
That implies laws which he has to follow.
Pardon me?
The question implies laws he has to follow.
And over here, He doesn't necessarily have to follow them.
Yeah.
But could He theoretically create a law that He doesn't necessarily have to follow?
Create a law
That He doesn't necessarily that He does have to follow.
You never have to.
Pardon me?
You never
He wouldn't have to because He's beyond that. Okay, we're trying to. Okay, I think that's a good approach. Okay. When we understand Hashem, okay, let's go back to our picture over here. Okay, we have to get beyond understanding either or. Okay, it's not a question of is he an old lady or a young lady, because he's a man, obviously. Okay, no, not because of that. Okay, but because he's beyond young and old. Okay, he's beyond able to, not able to. Okay, the rules which we work with, okay, don't apply to him. Okay, but at the same time, we can't pose any restrictions. Okay, can Hashem grow? On one hand, okay, and this is the point that the Rav Kook is trying to make. Okay, can Hashem grow? If Hashem is perfect, then presumably He can't. But if He can't grow, then that's something which is imperfect in itself. Okay? That would imply an imperfection in Hashem. Okay, so what are we going to do with that? Okay? Judaism is going to therefore suggest, and this is what Rav Kook is suggesting right here in this piece, okay, that Hashem includes and incorporates two different forms of perfection. Okay? One is absolute perfection. Okay? And the other is progressive perfection. Perfection within growth. Okay? There's this image of Hashem which is somewhere out there beyond anything that I can comprehend. Okay, this absolute perfection. Okay? But at the same time, there's a property of Hashem which is always growing. And His expression of perfection, His fulfillment of His perfection, okay, comes through that growth. Okay? Everyone's with me so far? Yes, no, a little bit.
I kind of have difficulty to understand, like to realize that he has a progressive.
Okay, this is because this is a big exactly. This is
It's a kind of a human aspect to being progressive because we have a decrease and increase in our life. It's not always
excellent
flowers and roses, but
excellent. How can we say that Hashem? How can we say that Hashem is increasing or decreasing if that's something which applies only to humans? Okay, in one second, okay, we're going to tie this piece into everything else that we said, okay, and we're going to understand that we are the aspect of Hashem which is growing to perfection. Okay, perfection.
So it's based on us?
That our growth and our strive to become perfect, that's the fulfillment of Hashem's perfection. That's the godliness that we were discussing the past few weeks. We're going to get there in 1 second. We're going to get there in 1 second. Okay, we're jumping ahead. Okay?
Are you saying that Hashem's perfection is dependent on our own spiritual...
We'll get there. Jump 1 step ahead. Okay, we're going to get there. What are we going to ask?
No, like the thought that he's more perfect now than he was like a certain time before. Strange.
Right, so
Just
we're not talking...
perfect as,
okay, good question. Okay, so what we're suggesting is not in terms of time. Okay? It's not that there was a time that he was less perfect, because remember, he's also absolutely perfect. Okay? We have a problem, we have a challenge. It's not a problem, it's a blessing. We have a challenge, though, when we're trying to understand Hashem, which is that we think in terms of time and space. Okay? But I think it's a healthy thing to acknowledge that Hashem is not necessarily restricted and bound to that. Okay? So therefore, it could be simultaneously growing, including time, and also to be beyond time. Okay? There's no time in the absolute perfection. Okay? And like, it's like this. Here, I'll draw you a short image just to try to understand. Okay? Let's do like this. Okay. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Okay? We have Hashem. Okay? Hashem, which is beyond our understanding. Okay? Hashem is beyond anything we can understand. Okay? Because we're human. Okay? Just like a flower can't understand human beings. Okay? Because there are a lot of things which a flower is lacking. Okay? In other words, doesn't have free choice, doesn't have, I don't know, an appetite. Okay? Doesn't eat the way the brain also. Okay? For example. Okay? So we also can't understand things which are higher than us. Okay? We can only understand in terms which we understand. Okay? In terms which apply to us. Okay? Hashem, okay, within himself is beyond our understanding. Okay? Over here what we're doing, okay, is we're trying to understand them in the best of our ability. Okay? So we're going to suggest two aspects here. Okay? One is the beyond everything that I can understand. This perfection which includes everything which is not changing because it's already perfect. It's absolute. It includes already everything which is good. Hence there's no room for growth. Okay? But yet at the same time, okay, we, okay, in our logical human minds can't possibly suggest that Hashem is lacking the ability to grow Because that's also something which is perfect in a certain way, and we're going to discuss it in a minute. Okay? So that's therefore within this absolute, okay, great Hashem, okay, which we can't understand, okay, because it's not human and we are, okay. We're going to make this division, okay, absolute and progressive, okay, but it's all simultaneous, it's all in one, and we can't understand it, okay, and that's a healthy thing. But the question is, how are we going to relate?
One question in this circle.
Which one?
This one.
This one? This one.
The big
The big one.
The big
The
one.
big one. Yes. The big
Sorry.
One. Yeah, the big circle.
It balances.
As in what percentage of?
Like if progressive is more, like it could be more than absolute, or they have to always be the same.
So it doesn't apply because it's, again, we're talking about Hashem himself in that picture. The big circle is something beyond our comprehension.
Okay.
Okay, so we that's a realm of it's like this. There's like a rabbi of mine told me a story once that someone came to ask him a question and said, and he asked him, Rabbi, what existed before creation? Okay, and that's a question which we all struggle with. What was before creation? But the thing is that there's before creation there wasn't a before and after. We're limited to understanding life based on humanistic terms, time, space, before, after, okay? But there's also something about Hashem which is beyond that, okay? So you can't say before there was time, right? Because to say that there's before time implies that there's time before time, and there's no time before time, because in your question you're saying
Can I
there's no
explain it?
Pardon me? You can't explain it.
You
It's
can?
beyond, what? Cannot.
Exactly.
Right, cannot. It's beyond our understanding, and that's a healthy thing. Okay? But the question is how are we going to bring it to our lives? Okay, and that's why I'm sitting here with you guys, is to try to take this abstract that we really can't comprehend and to try to get to the point. Okay? Okay, so let's just summarize what we have up until now. Okay, we have an absolute perfection, okay, which is beyond anything we can understand. Okay? But at the same time, okay, there's also something perfect about being able to grow to perfection. Okay? And therefore, when we try to understand the big circle, when we try to understand Hashem, okay, we're necessarily going to make this distinction. Absolute, far away, beyond us, personal, intimate, okay, progressive growth, perfection. Okay, those are the two aspects we're going to understand when we're trying to understand in our limited minds. Okay? And like I said, this is going to springboard us into a very, very powerful message. Okay? Therefore, there is, okay, I'm in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the end, 5.5, 6 lines from the end, something like that, okay? 6 lines up from the end. Therefore, there is to divinity the ability to create, and no actualization of worlds that continues in its full value and ascends, and therefore the divine soul to existence that gives it life is this consistent power to ascend. This is a divine foundation that causes it to actualize and improve. Okay? We'll expound this sentence in 1 minute, but then kind of in parentheses, okay? Rav Kook throws in a little insight, okay, to something that the Jewish world was really struggling with, okay? And to a certain extent also struggles with today, the concept of evolution. Okay? Listen to the sentence, and it's a totally different way of understanding evolution, okay? To the extent that science progresses and establishes itself upon the principle of evolution, it progresses and comes closer to the clearest divine light, the highest vision. Okay? What we're suggesting over here is that we are, okay, that our world is, okay, the fulfillment of progressive perfection. Perfection within progression and growth. Okay? In other words, evolution. Okay? And that means that Judaism not only doesn't contradict evolution, but it not only endorses it, okay, but evolution is essentially a Jewish idea. But built into the concept of how Judaism understands Hashem and our relationship to Hashem, okay, we have this concept of evolution. Maybe not specifically how Darwin suggested, okay, but in principle, okay, to understand our world as evolving. We're a world of eternal growth, okay? We are becomings. Okay, not human beings or human becomings. The whole theme of our life is growth. Okay? Here's what I want to try to understand. Okay? And here's the story. How are we on time?
Don't worry, we can have more time.
Okay, we'll go for a few more minutes. Okay, so here we have to bring it down to the to the personal level. Okay, you have a person, okay, who finishes high school, goes to college, okay, straight into pre-med, okay, and he's studying, and finally gets to graduation day. He's going to be a doctor. Okay, and he goes up to the podium to receive his diploma, and he gets it. And at that very moment when he receives his diploma, what do you think he feels? What describe the sense of finally after accomplishment, satisfaction. Okay? Achievement. Okay? But at the same time, and this is a strange human condition, he feels lacking. What's he going to do now? Okay, for the past 10 years, 7 years, whatever it was, okay, depending on where you live. Okay? He was devoted to fulfilling a cause. Okay, he had a goal in sight, and his entire life was devoted to fulfilling that goal. Okay? So, he practices being a doctor for whatever it is, and then he becomes, I don't know what,
A rabbi.
Then he becomes a rabbi, right? God forbid. Okay? No, then he finds a specialty. Okay, then he finds a specialty, becomes, this doctor. He works for 7 years to become a doctor. Now he has to choose a specialty. He has to keep progressing. So he becomes a foot doctor.
Podiatrist.
Okay, podiatrist, that's what it's called, okay?
Formal instruction.
It's not enough just to be a doctor, but now he has to continue to progress. Okay? And now he's going to focus, okay, in his later stages in his career after he's established a very, very successful podiatry.
Yeah.
Okay, practice and clinic. Okay? And he's had a very well-known name. Now what's he going to do? Okay, he's going to go into research. Okay, and he's going to focus on a specific condition that has to do with the left pinky toe. Okay, a strange condition called the left pinky toe condition. And he's going to research it for many years. What's that?
Very well known condition.
Very well known. That's how we rabbis understand it. Okay, but there's a complicated term. Okay, for it. Okay, and he's going to study this. And then he's going to discover, a solution for it. And so on and so on and so forth. Okay? The way we live, okay, is that we're always striving and always searching, yearning for growth, for progression. Okay? There's no end point to our lives. Okay? We're living, and I'll say it even more, we're living not in order to accomplish, not in order to get to that end point. Okay? What we really search is not that feeling that you all described when we get the diploma. Okay, what we're striving for is the experience, is the feeling of growth. Okay, I'll give you guys a very simple example. Let's say we were all mountain climbers. Okay, let's say, for example, I know most of us are, obviously, but let's say all of us were mountain climbers. Okay, so here we are, we're all, chugging up Everest or whatever the new highest mountain that they discovered in the world, okay, and we're all trying to get to the peak, okay? What's our goal? Is our goal to get to the peak?
The way is the goal.
Pardon me?
The way.
The way. Okay, if someone would pull up next to us, okay, in a helicopter, and say, hey, where are you going? Like, oh, I'm just going to the top of the mountain. And say, hey, I'm going there too, come, I'll give you a lift. Like, no, I'm walking there. That doesn't make any sense. If we're both going to the same place, I'm just going to get there faster. Right? Then obviously my goal is not to get to the peak of the mountain. Okay? The peak of the mountain is not what I want to achieve. What I want to achieve is this feeling of growth that I accomplish throughout my ascent. Okay? And not only is that the way we live, but that's also the purpose of our lives. Okay? Our sages teach us in the Mishnah, okay, our responsibility is not to complete. Okay? Our responsibility is not to finish the task, to complete the task. Okay? Okay? Our responsibility is to strive to complete the task. Okay? Do you understand the difference? Okay, to strive to be perfect versus being perfect. Okay, to grow, okay, versus being perfect. Okay, human nature is not to be perfect. Okay, and it's a challenge because the world and the society that we live in today very much tells us that we need to be perfect. Okay, perfect in school. Okay, and we have to behave in a very perfect, very set way, and we have to look very perfect, and we have to have a perfect job, and everything has to be very standardized, and externally, okay, everything has to be perfect. Okay, but this standardization, how do you say the word?
Standardization.
Standardization. Okay, of success and of perfection. Okay, brings a challenge because that's not who we are. Okay, standardized test. Maybe turn off the camera for 1 second. Okay, standardized testing. That's a challenge that we live in. Okay, our challenge, okay, is that we're not meant to be perfect. Okay, we're meant to become perfect. Okay, we're meant to strive. We're meant to climb the mountain if we're mountain climbers, not to get to the top. Okay, it's not like in, I don't know, Star Trek, that we can just beam up to different places. Okay, the challenges that we go through, okay, it's not just a field of roses like you mentioned before, you know? That's not only the way life is, that's the way life is supposed to be. That's how we're going to discover ourselves. We're going to discuss that more in a few weeks. Okay, that's how we're going to discover ourselves, is through these challenges. Okay, through the opportunities to grow. Okay? And that's how we're also going to reveal God. That's how we're going to reveal our godliness. That's how we're going to fulfill, okay, the aspect of godliness that we're meant to fulfill. Okay? And these two other pieces, and you guys can read it on your own. Okay? Rav Kook describes, or discusses rather, Rav Kook discusses how we, again with our limited mind, can understand the purpose of creation. Okay, and he comes to a very simple conclusion. Why should the world be created? What's lacking? What does God, okay, again remember this picture, okay, God, absolute, all-encompassing, okay, totally perfect from all sides and all ways of understanding. What is he missing that he needs to create me, Ari Faust, with all my failures, with all my challenge, with all my struggle? Okay, with all my failures, with everything that's wrong with me. Okay, and there are a lot of things that are wrong with me. Why does he have to waste his time with me? And think back also one more week before that. Think back to Aristotle. Why does Hashem have to have anything to do with me? Okay, and the answer is, 1 second. And the answer is, okay, that there's only one thing that's lacking. Okay, it's obviously not lacking because it's absolute. But there's only one thing that I can fulfill. There's only one thing that I can bring to the world. Okay, it's to deal with those challenges and to go through them. Okay, and to achieve a perfection, which is progression through growth, progression through challenge, progression and perfection through failure. That's who we are. Okay, that's the aspect of God. That's the godliness that we are. We're the godliness that comes manifest through growth, through failure, through these little nuances and these little funny things that we all do, and that society as a whole wants to tell us is not perfect. That's how we achieve our perfection. Okay, that is our godliness. Our godliness is not to be perfect. Okay, because there's a perfection which is much greater and much more perfect than any perfection that we're ever going to be. Okay, our goal, okay, and our mission, and the theme of our lives, okay, is to connect to perfection, which is called becoming perfect. Okay, and that's our unique godliness.